to the Rec Commission meeting for July 28th, 2020. We'll call the meeting to order. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, 5. Steve's here twice. We're not going to count Steve twice. So we've got 5 of us present. All right. So our second item, consideration of minutes from previous meetings. I don't believe we have any to review at this point, correct? Oh, Peter, I think you're muted.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, public input. Do we have anybody calling in from the public?
There are no public members.
Thank you. All right, so we will close public input. Facility and field requests. I know we got a couple. One was for the refresh my memory. I know it was to use Talent Hall for the dogs, correct? For the
dog training.
Yeah. Has anybody gotten back to her?
Nobody has yet, no. Not unless somebody did it without copying everybody, but I haven't seen any emails back to it.
All right, so because it wasn't a form, right? She didn't submit the form. It was just looking for
There's an engagement fee email.
Okay. All right, so why don't I reply to her? And they're not going to want to do anything in there in the month of August anyway, unless they probably get arrested for animal cruelty, bringing dogs in there in August. How hot it is, and then I'll maybe ask them to come to the next meeting, or at least get more information from them for the next meeting.
Yeah, it sounded like it was an ongoing request, and today obviously we're not in normal fashion, so I wasn't really sure if we could even fit her in if things start to go back to normal and Talent Hall is going to be used more often. Time she was specifying is right in the middle of pickleball on Sundays.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're using pickleball, if they're using the courts right now for pickleball. I'm thinking they're not doing any pickleball, maybe at the tennis courts. But I don't think anybody's been using Talent Hall.
In Talent Hall right now. So, yeah, but that's going to be an issue if it's year round. You know, in November, December, January, February, when that place is packed 7 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Now, what is our guidelines around that, Andy? Because it is for training, I don't remember what kind of dogs, service dogs, I believe. So that is a volunteer organization. Is that something that we can or should open Talent Hall up to? I don't believe she was a local resident. I don't remember. I don't have the email in front of me, but I don't think she was local.
And I think we've had this discussion over and over and over. You know, because we had the discussion about the Democratic group in town using it. Again, that's a volunteer, a nonprofit organization. But our focus really needs to be on events that either benefit the town as a whole, or at least have some semblance of working with one of our recreation groups. Supporting any one of the sports activities. It really should be recreation based, not just because then, like we've said in the past, we could be tying the hall up for all kinds of things, and we just don't have the staff. I mean, we have 3 to 4 hours a week of custodial duties for all of the properties and the hall budgeted in, so that that doesn't give us enough time for people to get in there, set up tables, follow up on it, clean up after it, make sure the restrooms are clean, especially now with COVID. But I think that's something that maybe, I don't know if we can even do like a work session. Steve, you might know better for this. Instead of having a public meeting and try and hash out basically how we're going to approach this in the future, and then bring it to a public meeting for discussion. I know we've done that for the budget in the past. So Steve Weber, I don't know if that's something that we would need to get permission to do, or
I'm not sure. Let me take a look and research it. I'll get back to everybody.
okay. All right. The other request was for volleyball. I will contact them as well and have them touch base. I actually did reach out and ask them to contact me directly, and I have not heard back yet. I know it's a group that actually my daughter plays in that tournament over in Plastow all the time, so I don't know why they're looking for another facility, but I did mention that in the fall those fields are used so that we wouldn't be able to give them up on a Saturday or a Sunday, because there's soccer and softball and all kinds of stuff going on there. All right, were there any other facility and field requests that anybody saw?
The only other thing was the re-asking about using the sawmill parking lot for the road race.
Yeah.
And I mean now, I mean in the spring it was like, one day, a part of the day. Now all of a sudden it's 2 days, and I can't even get, and I don't even really get a sense of how much time on those 2 days. Do you know what I mean? Why can't I find the email now? So the question becomes, because realistically, soccer is going to be there. Soccer is in session. Has started up right now. The plans are going ahead to do the fall season. So shutting down Sawmill for a weekend isn't really an option. I mean, even taking up half that parking lot soccer's gonna need at least half the parking lot on those days. So I mean, I don't know how, it just seemed like what's the word I'm looking for? Just kind of a nebulous request of like, can we use can we have the parking lot both those days?
I mean, do you want to touch base with her and sort of? I mean, it might be easier just trying to handle that one-on-one and find out what they're looking for specifically.
Yeah, I can ask, I mean, here it is. Because I know Steve responded and said, we don't reserve parking lots and everything, which is, was a perfect answer. But I mean, if they're going to start bringing people in there early, it's going to be chaos in reality, and that's just people getting in and out of the parking lot. So,
I think I mentioned too that right now a lot of the sport leagues are up in the air, wondering what's going on. But I think I mentioned that obviously our local sports leagues have priority over parking in the field use. So it's something that we'd have to address because they were talking in October, and I didn't know where we stood with softball at that time.
Right. No, you mean, Steve, I think you did a great job answering it, especially since, it was the very beginning of this month and right after the holiday. It was like right around the holiday. So it was like, we're all moving parts at that point, long weekends and everything. And they're looking for a response, like almost immediately, like, on those two days. So, yeah. So I'll reach out. I can reach out to her and try to get more specifics, because, I mean, we haven't. The other thing is, as I said, we haven't seen the specifics. We don't know if it's what time is the race. Is the race both days? Is it one of the day and they're trying to reserve both to give them, leeway? I mean, so
like a rainy day
right. So I will reach out. I mean, my even back beforehand, it was one of those things where if everything's being staged out of town hall and they're using Sawmill as a parking lot, are they shuttling people back and forth? Are they walking people back and forth? I mean, that's another question because, I mean, if you're shuttling people in and out of there, even if you're only using half the if we say, yeah, you can use half the parking lot, that traffic is in there is going to become a nightmare too. So is there going to be a police detail at that location too to control coming in and out of there?
Right, and they'd probably need some type of police presence too, just for safety, because if they're running even along the bike path, they're gonna have to cross at that intersection by the town hall.
Well, from what I saw, from what the original, when I looked at the original layout for this that was supposed to happen in the spring, the entire race is south of Hillcrest. Do you know what I mean?
Okay,
So it like starts at Town Hall, goes down Albuquerque towards Pinecrest, and then goes up and around and in that area, and then comes back. It never crosses to the north side of Hillcrest. Because because the main reason I actually looked at that was even if there is like, are you even able, if you have that race going past Sawmill as part of the course, then you might as well just cancel games there, because now you're basically you can't have cars pulling in and out of there and going up and down that street with the amount of runners, people along that route. So
If I can interject just for a minute, I think the start is at the actual fire station and it goes south on Albuquerque
right,
and goes out in Greenwich or something like that.
and that's what I saw too. So
Okay.
I did see that route, which is why the police presence would be if there's a shuttle running from Sawmill to Town Hall. That traffic coming out in Albuquerque is going to be a nightmare if you don't have someone there to like control it. That's all I was saying.
We also don't know how many cars. Are we talking 10 or are we talking 300?
Correct. So I will follow up with her.
okay.
We
I mean,
go
she's
from
with
there.
our police department, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, so you'll follow up, good. All right.
Andy, you're going to move your mic a little closer to your face, bub.
Well, I don't want you guys hearing me breathe.
The problem, Andy, was we were like I had to jack up my volume just to hear you.
Oh, okay.
And everyone else is like screaming at me, but
Is this better?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
All right, so any other facility and field requests? Okay, so let's get on to new business. The capital improvement plan meeting. So we got that email from Troy today. Now, could we just have the parking lot, right? That's the only one that we're putting forward.
Is that the only one we're going with? Because I thought Chris had researched the lighting or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he got the information to them.
If that's all it is, then I will plan on attending the meeting because I did the research on that one.
Okay.
So I will take care of that. August 3rd, I believe it's 6 p.m., right, Steve?
Yes, it starts at 6.
Okay.
Okay.
Though it did, the last email did say Troy said rec would be like 7:15. I think he's trying to parse out time so no one's there for the whole thing.
Yeah, so what it is we're not trying to have too much public in at once. So we're trying to jockey the time. So I think you'll see fires on there 15 minutes later, somebody else follows. So
Steve, is that something I have to attend town hall for, or is that a call-in?
you can call into that.
All right. Good. Thank you, Andy, for doing that. All right, so our next item is the budget. Now, did you guys get I shared a Google Sheet with everyone? Did everybody get that? I think it was shortly after our last meeting.
I don't think I got that.
All right, let me share it again. So,
And I spoke with Troy Brown today, and if we need any assistance in pulling it together, just reach out to him, and he'll help us get all the background information we need to pull it together.
well, we have a lot of the background info. It's just he wanted it done from scratch again this year, right? We don't want.
Correct. We want to do zero-based budgeting, so some of that information we're probably going to have to go to Karen White to get the historical trends.
Well, we have back to 2015.
Oh, okay.
So I put that in this so that let me just share it again.
So do we just have the budget, so do we have physically what was spent and how it was allocated?
Oh no, we just have the budgets, but I mean our budgets are so basic. You know, we basically know what each line item is basically its own thing.
Yeah, I mean, the line item I see that's going to increase will be the porta potty line. Because the company that we had that contract with for so many years is out of business.
Yeah.
So so porta potties were just dropped off at Corning, Jeff, Sawmill, and Dara. And I believe the price is double for them now.
Well, I noticed I didn't see them at the other spots, but Sawmill there are two, right? They're both
So
up
I'm
by
not
10.
sure what.
No, right now there's 3 at Sawmill for some reason.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that Millennial Running may have brought him in for the road race last weekend. Because Troy showed up and she saw 3 of them there, and where they were placed was not what he told United, who our new person is, and he believes that Millennial brought those in. So he was going to research that today.
Okay. So I just shared it again, so everybody should have it. But if you look at it, something just get deleted out of here. Oh, it got hit. Okay. So, you know, we've got back to 2015 for all the different lines. I mean, the big one, our biggest one is the field maintenance. That's 60 to 70% of our budget,
Mm-hmm.
or 60%. And then, you know, our other things, propane, electric, and toilet rentals. And then basically that's probably 80% of our budget, 85% of our budget. So a lot of those aren't really under our control other than trying to maintain the electricity, you know, keeping the doors closed, keeping the temperature set. Hopefully this year the propane will be a little bit more stable with the new heating system. But it might wind up using more because our old heating system was down for a while, so I don't know. So I tried to figure out if people wanted to take specific line items, like Steve, if you wanted to do, I know you're looking with the fishing derby and things. So, you know, if you wanted to work on the program expenses, which would include, you know, the barbecue, Easter egg hunt, Christmas in Litchfield, and Peter, you probably want to have some input with that. You know, most of these things are self-sustaining, but we do want some seed money in there so that because these are town events. So, but so if everybody could sort of take a look at this and now when, Mr. Weber, when do we have to have this in? It's the end of August, right? This is our first
End of
review, I
August,
guess.
yes. Yep, we'd like to start looking at all of them at the end of August.
So we'll probably need to do 2 meetings in August. One the second Tuesday just for the budget, and then the 4th Tuesday would be our normal meeting. But in order to get the budget to them by the end of August, we'd need to have it done by us. Probably voted on by the second week of August.
Andy, do you
We'll
get the
try to add in the note taker to the.
Yeah, so we would have to create a line item for that, and we could probably put that in there and just Troy can assign a number to it and put it where it should be. But now, Mr. Weber, is there each department pays for their own minute taking, correct? Or is that something that's a single line item that all the minutes for all the meetings are out of one department or one budget?
Each department has their own line item for when they have minutes.
Okay.
Andy, do we have the 2020 approved budget? This one looks like just a 19, but do we have the current year approved budget somewhere as well?
Let me see. I don't see it here.
You don't have to dig for it now, I think, but if you can find one copy to send around. Maybe
All
for
right.
the next
Well, what I'll
meeting.
do is I'll just add. I'll just put another tab on this sheet so we don't have a million files going on. I'll just put another tab for the 2020 approved budget. And actually, maybe I'll get from Karen where we stand on all of our line items, so it's just kind of get a general ledger, since we're more than halfway through the year, to see where we stand. Because that'll also help us looking at. I know we're trying not to spend anything, but if there's things that we can put off, if we're really close on some budget lines. I know we took a hit with the additional treatments on the fields, so that's going to be a decent amount. So maybe we'll just take a look at the budget, and I think that should be what we do. The first meeting of August is just focus on the budget.
We're going to be reviewing the Rex budget on August 24th.
Okay. All right. Anything else on the budget?
Just so we should probably have a meeting the second Tuesday of August or something.
Yes. Yeah, so we'll just have our two normal meetings next month, but the first meeting will be dedicated strictly for the budget. And we can also, we can do other business that night, but we're not going to be trying to look for any extra business to do that night, because it'll be a decent amount of time to just get the budget done. And any information that we can put in there between now and then to sort of help, maybe if everybody sort of has their own idea of each budget line, what we should be looking at, so that we're not starting from scratch, but we'll come up with one budget that night. The one thing we probably won't be able to do is the field maintenance, and that's the other thing. Is our next item is we're going to have to put the RFP out for field maintenance for next year, because this was a one-year contract. And I mean, what we can do is, I know there were some tweaks that we wanted to do to the last RFP, correct?
I would say so. Yeah, definitely.
So, anybody feel comfortable writing or tweaking that and sending it out to everyone, or?
I'll take a look at it, Andy.
Okay.
Yeah, can you send that to me? Do you have it somewhere?
Yeah,
Or?
I will send it to you. And then if you want to just create a draft for this, and then we can start taking a look at it. And then again, we can bring that up at the meeting. So Steve Weber, what we did last year, and we'll probably be in the same situation this year, is we'll put together a budget, propose it to you guys in August. But once those that field maintenance line won't be really finalized until we put the RFP out and actually award that contract. So that's something we can adjust once we do that, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Just one thing on that. Do you want me to do kind of like a 2-option RFP? So we got, a plan A and a plan B, kind of like we had talked about last fall when we went through this.
Plan A and plan B being what?
Basically, I don't know if you remember, but there was like a less treatments versus a more treatment sort of policy, so one included 6 treatments, one included 4 treatments as was written in our original RFP, stuff like that, grub control, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that would probably be good.
Yeah, grub control definitely has to be added. That was one that was overlooked last time or previously.
All right. Anything else on the RFP? All right, Andy, thanks for doing that. All right, email response process. And Steve, you had brought this up, so if you want to talk to this.
Actually, I think Andy may have brought it up, but him and I have had a little conversation about it. We're just looking for something, like we mentioned earlier. We need a formal engagement or response when we have these type of requests, like, can I use the parking lot? Can I have dog training? Can I? What I noticed, and I noticed Andy noticed as well, is it doesn't seem like we're responding to these requests in a timely manner, and we're not really sure who should respond. So what we discussed is, should there be a formal process? Maybe somebody in the week of August, or the month of August, will do all the responses. In December, somebody else, January, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe do it around robin, or create establish a process where we can respond with the correct information, or referring to a frequently asked question on the website or something like that, so that these people are getting the information they want in a timely fashion. Would you like to respond? Add more to that, Mr. Ruggles?
Yeah, I just noticed that like some of these email requests linger around without any response, and I just don't want people to think that we didn't see them, or even if it's a matter of saying, hey, we got your request, but we need to talk about it at the next meeting. I just feel like somebody should probably be a point person on responding. I don't know how that works or who that should be, but it was just a thought, just so we can make sure we get back to people and say, hey, look at the website, you need to fill out this form or whatever. But that was the thought behind it.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes it's nice that it's sent to all of us, but I think sometimes that's a detractor too, because then it's kind of everybody sort of looking to the person to the left and the right. Okay, figuring, because sometimes I think we've had 2 people respond or 3 people respond to the same request too, which is not good either. I mean, just sort of a waste of everybody's time to be responding to the same thing. I mean, I don't know if you guys feel like rotating through is the best way to do it. And I'm sure that there's sometimes years, I know like during basketball season, it would be tough for me to do. Outside of that, it's a lot easier. The big thing is we really need to come up with some, I don't want to say canned responses, but some generic responses for, hey, this is something that needs to be discussed at a meeting, and sort of point them towards that, because a lot of these things, can I use the parking lot? Can I use that? Can I use this? It's not something that one of us could make, or even a group of us can make outside of a public meeting. So that's where.
But we have had that request quite often. I mean, not quite often, but there was a car show that came up, and then the the 5K and stuff like that. And if we had a spot on the web page or whatever, and it said, as far as parking is concerned, the parking is open to the public. We don't rent out fields, stuff like that. Stuff that people generally ask, that we could say, please read the fact and then respond. Get back to us with the appropriate information. Just a thought.
Yeah, maybe we could just do a Q&A page and,
Yeah, let's put it this way. My only concern with, especially the parking lots, is, you're talking like someone decides they want to use a parking lot on a Saturday morning, and like say Dara, and there's a softball's going on the Dara on Saturday morning. Now all of a sudden you have someone in there competing with the league that actually needs the parking lot. So, I mean, while we don't approve of it, we should really be aware of these. And if we put something out there that says, "Oh, we don't reserve parking lots, so it's you don't need to request it or ask about it," we could run into a situation which is even worse.
So maybe we should.
That makes sense.
If the field is being consumed, the parking is included.
Right. In general, for the most part, yes. Dara Talent, you're using one of those, you're using a decent amount of the parking lot. Sawmill, there's more room at the parking lot. It's a big parking lot, but if, depending on the day and how things are scheduled, and I know right now soccer's talking about trying to centralize games more on the weekends, more at Sawmill this fall, for the use of, keeping things cleaner and everything in one location on game day. It's going to be busy. So that parking lot may not be full, but it could be, 2/3 full. And then, or, depending on the time of the day. So you don't want to get into a spot where someone's coming in and using half the parking lot, 3/4 of the parking lot, and you're pushing those rec leagues out.
And the difficult part, because of COVID, is we really are not aware of what is actually going on at that particular time in the future. The past couple of years, we could easily say, no, soccer uses that field X, Y, and Z from this hour to this hour. Anything after that, you're free to use it. But during these set hours, soccer is a priority. But with this current state, it's hard to determine what that will be. Like the road race, we're hoping to have soccer going, but we don't know. So it's hard to give them a committal, yes or no. So if we just have a blank statement saying that if these sports leagues are playing, then the answer is no.
Should we take a stab at writing up like some idea for fact questions and some responses that we could, put forth in front of the group and tailor them the way that everybody seems to agree upon?
it's a good place to start.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that we have to post it. At least we'll have, at least a common idea of what we're looking to answer. But a lot of these are going to be, specific, to the situation.
Well, some of them we already have, we've had the requests of parking lot usage. So that's a frequently asked question that we can put out there and say, parking lots are deemed, et cetera, et cetera. Can I use the pavilion for a birthday party? Can I use Town Hall for, my son's birthday party? Those are some of those requests that we already know that no, the answer is no.
Right.
Pavilion first come, first serve. Town Hall is not available for private functions.
But like for the parking lot, we haven't really approved it, but the trunk or treat has used that.
Right.
And
well, I think maybe with the parking lot question, it's more of one of these, like, the rec commission doesn't formally reserve the parking lot for use. However, we do need to check the schedule to make sure that the parking lot is available during whatever time you it's needed, or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I'll try. I can take a first stab at that, but it's something where we aren't going to formally give you access, like formally reserve a parking lot for you. However, you do need to come to us so we can make sure that if you're intending to use it or try to use it, that there isn't another large activity that already has it first.
Right.
How do we?
So we all have right access on the web, so we should be able to, you know, I'll write up something so everybody can check it themselves, but you should be able to go up and update it, you know, frequent last question, or if it's incorrect, update it accordingly.
Now, is there a way, Steve, to put something on there like a Google Doc that's a live doc that, you know, as we add a Q&A, that would just, instead of having to go into the website and update it, we can just update the Google Doc and say, you know, because, hey, this question came in, you know, and as a group we can vote. And, you know, I wouldn't say just have somebody add it on there. It's probably better for us as a group to agree with what goes on there. And, you know, so we can add things to that Google Doc, and then it'll just be right there on the site.
Yeah, it'll support that.
Okay. All right. Anything else on email response process? I think it's probably going to have to be developed. I would say, you know, it's probably just not something we can do in one or even a few sessions. It's probably something that we'll need to get a process in place and to just be constantly looking for ways to improve it.
Right, just ask, did we close the loop on who would respond? I like the idea of the rotating piece, because I think even if we don't have the perfect answer right now, it'd still be good to get back to folks in a timely manner, even if we don't know, or we'll get to it at the next meeting. So I think even if we just said August, first man up, and go from there, I think that's better than what we have right now.
Okay.
I'll take the rest of July.
Rest of July means you do December as well, right?
Sure.
Yeah, anybody? So who wants to do August? Actually, we could, how about we can assign Colleen? Anybody that's not here, we can assign them, right?
Brilliant.
That's the rule.
That's
All right, anybody here want to do August?
I'll take it. That's fine.
Okay, how about September?
I'll take September.
All right, October.
I'll do October.
All right, I'll do November because they won't be able to do December. Mike, you up for December?
I guess I get December.
All right. And then we'll have a lot of time between now and then to sort of come up with a more formal system and we can see how this works. See if it's kind of a pain or. All right. All right, moving on to member attendance.
Yeah, I gotta apologize because a lot of these agenda items were me.
That's okay.
So, member attendance. I propose that we establish a minimum meeting attendance requirement. I believe members should be required to attend at least 50% of the total annual amount. Failing to meet requirements may result in the removal of the commission by vote, at which time an alternate would be appointed as a member. Right now, our commission can hold 6 members and 4 alternates. We currently have 6 members and 2 alternates. We meet approximately 22 times a year. 50% of that would be 11 meetings. We do not have set terms, so departure is primarily voluntary. And I think establish a requirement will ensure that cohesive commission by being able to manage the members, appoint new members, and solicit for additional members as needed. Right now, we should have 2 more, or we could bring in 2 more alternates.
Well, we do have set terms. We're all appointed to 3-year terms.
Oh, okay, I wasn't aware of that.
And it's they rotate through. So we have 2 full-time members that will be up every April. And then we have 1 alternate every April, and then there's 1 April that we have 2 alternates. So we have either 3 or 4 new terms starting every year. It rotates through for 3 years.
So I'm wondering, when we redid the bylaws in the last couple of years, did we? I forget if we addressed this at that time or not. Steve, were you
remember
looking
it.
at the bylaws, or have you seen those?
I buzzed through them and I didn't see anything that said anything about terms
Yeah.
or as meeting requirements, attendance requirements. But the bylaws did look pretty old.
They shouldn't look too old. We
Where can
updated
I
them in
find-
2018 or
Yeah,
something.
Yeah.
2018, yeah. Where can I find the list of the rotation list? Is that something that's published?
No, I'm actually looking for it. Right, I'm looking for the last email that I had, which I think was 2019 from Troy. I don't know. Do we? Maybe it's maybe I just don't remember it. I didn't see anything with this year, and now mind you, with the middle of COVID, it was right at the beginning. I mean, he would have sent out the thing right after elections when COVID was at the top of its game. So it might have just been missed, but I think the last one I saw was in 2019.
He sent one March of this year.
Was there one? I mean,
And it was, and actually he hasn't sent an updated one because he had it incorrect, because he had my term expiring this year, but it actually expired. I re-upped last year in 19. And the only other one. Yeah, so this isn't accurate because we should have 2, since we have 6 full-time members, 2 expire every year. So this year he has myself and Steve. But I don't think that's correct. So I'll ask Troy for an updated list so we'll know. And now, Steve Weber, does Troy have that, or is that more Terry?
I think Troy has it, because what happens is the reappointment has to come to the Board of Selectmen and we sign off on them.
Okay.
And I don't remember signing any this year. We usually get them all around April for all the different committees. And I just don't remember signing any this year. So due to the COVID, we may not have gotten to them because there were so many other things going on.
Well, it was actually on your board. I think it was on the email I have from Troy says it was on your agenda for March 23rd to reappoint members.
Okay, I can check with them.
Okay.
yeah, Andy, you and I, the last thing I know you and I were up in 2019. I have that written down, or that in an email. So I know I just redid it. So I'm not exactly sure who should have been up this year.
I know I came in to fulfill John Bryant, and so I don't know when his term was actually ended.
Yeah, I'm not sure. All right. Well,
Now, is there any process of, if a member is a member for 3 years but never attends a meeting, is he a member? Is there a way that we as a committee can determine that we should relieve him of duties, him or her of duties, and bring in someone else?
Well, yeah, before we actually have to, don't we recommend appointments to?
Yeah, but he's talking about a year. You've been appointed to a 3-year term.
But I mean, even after that, even when that expires, like you have to renew. So don't we have? I thought it was like, I for some reason I thought we discussed like, do you want to be part of this? Do you want to rerun again or not, or be appointed again or not? I mean, and if we do that every year, then if someone's not there and hasn't been there, then we could definitely call that to attention. Like they shouldn't be reappointed. True. I like
Yeah.
maybe
Well, yeah,
not.
but
I mean,
I
it's-
think, Steve, if I'm correct, we're not talking about 3 years after the fact. We're talking about, so somebody gets appointed in 2020, and we're now in April of 2021, and they've shown up to 3 meetings. You know, do they keep that seat for the next 2 years, or do we have a process to either switch them to an alternate, um, you know, whatever the case is.
right. That I know that's definitely what Steve's saying right now.
Correct.
But we really have
I know
nothing
the
in here
elected
as far as that in our bylaws.
I know when it comes to elected officials, if you miss X amount of meetings that are unexcused, you can be removed from the board. It happened a couple of years ago right in town on our budget committee. There was an individual that was actually voted in by the public, and he no-showed probably the first 6 months of meetings, and he was removed, legally removed from the committee.
Maybe that's something that we can adopt.
Yeah, we've never really addressed this because we've never had I mean, we always have open seats up until recently,
Right.
so it was
Right.
never. Maybe this is something that and again, we'd have to go through the process of updating our bylaws, but. And I'll forward this email. This was the last copy of this is from April 25th, 2019. These are the bylaws that Terry has on file for us at Town Hall.
But Steve, I appreciate your point, and I support it. I think it is a good process to have that in there. As a lover, I think as a committee we have had historically people hanging on even though they've not been in attendance. And he's right, we haven't really had an issue with it because we had open seats and had the opposite problem. But I think putting that in there as an expectation when people come on, it sets the right tone.
Especially when you have alternates that make every single meeting. It's kind of fair to them. If they're willing to put the time in, they should be a full member.
All right. Anything else on that one, Steve?
Nope.
Okay, league update. So we're sort of looking for, I assume this is for finding out what's happening in the fall.
Right. It kind of goes back to the point we were making earlier, like, are the parking lots open or are they going to be used for soccer? Are the fields open for grass volleyball or is soccer going to be in play? So what I'm just looking for is there a way that we can get feedback from the different leagues on their current status or the potential plans going forward. We all know this, we just don't know what to expect. I know baseball's started up at a certain level. Soccer started up. Soccer's going to start up. Softball has started up, but we don't know at what height. We know they're not 100% full blown like they were in the past. But what is actively going on? Who's doing it, and at what percentage? So if somebody says, "Is Litchfield having soccer this year? Is Litchfield baseball playing?" It'd be just nice to know where our leagues stand and what their plans are for during this COVID situation.
Steve, I agree with you 100%. And I think that whenever a sport is in session, I think a representative of that committee should show up to the rec commissions for the duration that they're open, just for such as, is there a softball tournament going through Dara on a certain weekend? Is there a baseball tournament? What's going on with basketball? Are they going to utilize talent? I think it's just good feedback.
And also, I mean, are there issues? What do you need? What?
Yep.
But then again, what do we do if they don't show? I mean, we've had a lot of. I know basketball has been, recently has said, "Oh, we're going to have somebody there," but it's tough when they're a volunteer group and they come into our meeting. In the past, it's been better, simply because we had a lot of members in our group that represented,
The various sports. Yeah.
We don't have. I mean, Andy, you're involved in, is it softball?
Baseball.
Okay, but I thought you were getting roped into softball as well.
That's Chris Burns.
Oh, Chris. Okay. All right. So, but I mean, maybe Mr. Weber, instead of, and I'm sorry to keep calling you Mr. Weber, it's easier than getting
Okay.
confused with Steve. Maybe we can do something similar to what the Board of Selectmen does, and we can not only have maybe one of their members be a liaison to us, but have one of us each assigned to one of those leagues.
That'd be fantastic too. I just think there should be more communication. I mean, most of these leagues run under the guise of recs. We use all their fields, but I think from a rec commission, we don't know, other than having people that are part of that organization, what's really going on. Fortunately, I have enough of a visual because I'm part of baseball and softball. But when it comes to other sports, I'm not sure when they're using. We were just talking earlier about parking lot usage. Well, how do we as a group know when someone's utilizing the parking lot? It's not like we have a calendar for each one of our fields, and the organization using it is putting in when they're going to utilize that field. So other than the knowledge of the people sitting here, we really don't know when it's going to be utilized.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is that something we could add? Is just a calendar that each of these organizations fills out, saying, "Hey, this is when we expect to, be using, the various facilities."
Yeah, I mean, when I did the talent hall calendar, we actually developed one for each of the fields, but then it got into a real cluster with Roy Memorial Park, because it's okay. You've got 3 different softball fields and your soccer field. Which one are you using? People would want to reserve it and say, okay, well, this is reserved. Well, this is just one softball field. But if somebody's using a softball field, you can't be using the soccer field. It's kind of one of those weird things. Sawmill, Mike, all the different configurations down there, it would be hard to say what is being done.
It's, it's true. Going back to Steve's point, for a long time there was always someone on the board who knew what one of the leagues was doing, because across it, everyone was there. Those of us involved in the commission were on boards as well, and it's still pretty much we're pretty much still well covered in terms of sports on the rec commission. We have a hole with basketball. That's a definite hole. At one point it was three of us on where it had things to do with basketball, and now none of us do. So, sometimes it's a cycle through. Maybe it's one of those things where if someone on the rec commission isn't on one of those boards, then you need to have some sort of presence one way or the other on those other boards. Basketball. Yeah, you need to have someone show up at least one meeting a month. Or something like that. Since they don't have a person on the rec commission who's a board member elsewhere. We don't want to double dip either. We don't want to be like, I'm on the soccer board, I'm on the soccer and lacrosse boards. There's no reason to have someone else showing up to all the meetings if I'm already here. So, it's and again, it is tougher to start doing the whole parking lot thing, because realistically, what it would come down to is that softball or soccer would be like, well, we usually do practices. We do practices 5 to 8 Monday through Friday, so we're just going to write 5 to 8. You may not be there. There may be one of those days where you're using it for an hour, but no one's going to go back in and change it because that one day you're not using it for those 2 hours. You're going to probably leave that book because there could be some rain out or whatever, and someone else moves in there, and you know, I mean, you're trying to keep that flexibility at the same time.
What if we as a commission took the initiative and reached out to each of the presidents of each of the leagues, once a month and said, hey, what's new? What do you have planned for the next month? And then we come in with that information. That way, you said it's tough for them to attend a meeting. Maybe we could relay that information. Just, open up some lines of communication.
It's something. It's again. We can definitely do it. It's one of those things though. Do we want to get to a point where we're getting involved in all these little things of all these other boards every month? I mean, maybe we do, but it's a matter of trying to figure out how much is a rec commission do we want to take on in terms of, okay, are we going to start trying to manage the managers of those areas?
So I think the suggestion of having a liaison is good, because I agree, Mike. We don't want to get into the weeds of these boards and the leagues. I've been kind of acting that way for the Christmas in Litchfield committee, and I'm not actually involved in that committee or the event, but I can facilitate the communication. So I think that's worked well, because like for a league, I don't need to be part of the league, but if I can have a point of contact there and just before rec meetings say, hey, anything that you need us to be aware of, and if there's questions in the group, I can instantly go to someone. I think that is good, because it puts ownership on each one of us to own one of those communication pieces, but wouldn't be overly burdensome with asking them to continuously show up, or be represented on the board. So I think it'd be a practical way to go. If the selectmen have been doing that and it's worked well in other capacities, I think that might be an easier way to go and facilitate. I think at least initial, we're just connecting the dots with the communication. We just get that line of communication open. I think that's the most important thing.
And I think it would cut down on a lot of those emails that come to us as a group too, because if basketball has a liaison, they're going to contact that person, and it's not everybody getting it going, okay, no, what's going, it's going to streamline that piece of it as well. And I mean, if there's 2 or 3 of us that are involved in one particular sport, baseball, for instance, it really should just be the one person though that's at sort of almost. And I think you guys do it with the Board of Selectmen. You guys report out, and we could go through, and that could be part of our agenda, is anything new with baseball, and
Yep.
whoever and just if it's nope, nothing new, okay, great, moving on. And if
Every meeting, what we do is we do a selectmen's report, and whoever sits on that committee just gives an update what happened in the last meeting.
Yeah. And I mean, we're not saying that you have to go to their board meetings. If you can, great. Maybe once just to introduce yourself, but just like we said, be the point of contact.
Andy, still need to make every baseball meeting.
What's that?
Telling Andy Ruggles he still has to make every baseball meeting.
I'll show once a year and check in.
They'll dock your pay.
I mean, I'd be willing to
I
check
just
in.
think
Obviously, I'm on the baseball board, but I'd be also willing to check in with basketball, because I'm sure my kids are going to be playing the next couple of years. So if that's something you want me to take up, I can certainly do that.
Well, I honestly, I think
Just say yes, Andy. Say yes. The basketball board. Say yes, and run away.
Well, I'm not going to interject myself, but I'll just say, hey,
No,
I'm going to be your liaison. If you need anything, or if you have any special requests, please reach out.
Yeah, it's not the interjection you have to worry about.
Oh, gotcha.
It's if they will ever respond to you, or how many respond at one time. It's usually you get nothing, or you get like 4 different people with 4 different answers. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would assume that typically in typical years, it's not as much of an issue. But in this year with COVID, it'd be nice to know, where do all the leagues stand? Are they going to ramp up? Are they not going to ramp up? Are they going to use the facilities?
Right.
Do they need different facilities? And are they adhering to all the appropriate rules?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, also make sure that they're getting the information to Mike. Mike's been good about getting the insurance info and all that stuff. So, it might make it a little easier for Mike too to say, whoever the liaison is for basketball, hey, you know what? They didn't get me their insurance info. Can you get it for me? Or tell them to
So
get it for me.
we need to create a list of leagues, contacts, and assign a liaison to each.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I mean, not just leagues, but like Peter said, Christmas in Litchfield. There's a bunch of different groups that we have regular interaction with. That would be good.
All right, on to the next one once again.
Well, Steve, let me give you the update. So soccer, because the board meeting was last night. So right now the state started coming back with the leagues, with the youth and amateur sports rules. There've been, we actually did have tryouts where we restricted to so many kids in a field. Coach had to wear a face mask. Hand sanitizer there for people. Parents had to, stay in the parking lot, stay in their cars. So that proceeded by the rules. We're going along with whatever the state is passing down to us in terms of the restrictions on soccer. So whatever the state's passing to us, whatever the state league is passing to us, we're following in the same manner. I mean, as of right now, soccer, the league soccer in the state is a go. So they haven't passed down any sort of restrictions on, spectators or where spectators are supposed to stand or anything. Just they should be wearing masks. So, I mean, we're going to proceed as if it's going to happen, and we're proceeding by whatever rules are handed to us, because we know that they're going to come. There's going to be, so they've said that there's going to be game monitors, showing up at games randomly to check in to make sure everything's being followed.
Now,
That's for
Mike,
travel soccer, right?
Do you see
Yeah, travel soccer, and then rec soccer will follow the same rules.
Now, with travel soccer, are they going to reduce the number of locations that you travel to? Like, I know a lot of the divisions are now reducing it to like a quarter of the division or only this conference.
They always did, in the past, they've always tried to, regionalize where you're playing anyway. But besides what their normal groupings are, like trying to say, we're trying to keep teams within a half an hour of each other, when they can, because sometimes you can't. Sometimes the way divisions run or age groups run, you got to drive an hour. But they're not doing anything more specialized than what they normally try to do with, coming up with a division in age groups.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And I think everything's going to hinge on what happens with schools. That's going to really, I don't think a lot of the leagues are going to be able to do anything concrete until the schools have all determined what they're going to do, what the sports are going to do with the schools, and then everything sort of trickles down. Because if they, for instance, they cancel the fall sports for high school, you're going to see a huge boom in travel soccer for that age group, and it's probably going to cause a lot of havoc with things. I know it's happened, with basketball, the schools this summer, we normally run all kinds of leagues. There's no leagues for that, but now if you've driven by the sports zone lately, there's no parking there. It's packed because all the AAU programs are busting at the seams because the schools aren't being able to run leagues for the summer. So it sort of all comes back. But hopefully we'll have a clearer picture. When is Litchfield voting on their school system or situation? Do you know?
Thursday.
Okay. So we'll have more information by next week. All right. So what I'll do for the league stuff is I'll come up with a list I'll email it out to everybody. I'm going to give everybody it'll be in a Google form and give you a couple of options, and then we'll sort of look and see off of that from the next meeting, you know, if there are people that are very strongly that want to do one thing or the other. And then maybe we can even have, you know, a liaison and a backup. So, I mean, baseball, I think we have a couple of backups already. All right, Dara Gate.
So
It's our nemesis.
I honestly almost just bought a chain, put up a lock, and was like, screw it at one
Well,
point.
The other issue is I was down there yesterday, and the other gate over by the batting cages, the lock is gone on that, and that was wide open, which is
Oh,
just
nice.
inviting somebody to drive right out onto the field, and so, you know, the issue is with the gates, and I know, you know, we've sort of gone back and forth. We started doing the guardrail along the basketball courts, and we want to do the guardrail along the playground side, so that way cars can go up and down. But then we're going to have people parking all over the place, and it's going to become a major issue. I think for all of our sanities, and Kevin Brown, I've been sort of playing tag with him. He says he's got a couple of ideas, so I'd like to meet with him. He's got a couple ideas on what we can do down there. And I noticed the boulders that Kevin put to keep cars off the basketball court that are towards the water. Somebody moved one of those big boulders. So I don't know why they would want to move one of those.
I mean, my question is, should we come up with should we put the chain back as a temporary solution? Just to have, because realistically, there are way too many cars down there.
Yeah.
At most points during a day.
I mean, the pushback that we get is from the companies with different drivers for the porta potties, for the trash, for the propane, because if they go in there and don't lock it behind them, doing what they're doing, there's going to be a car that pulls in, and now they're down there. They lock the gate. That car's locked in, which is probably what happened. I think, you know, somebody probably got ticked off that they got locked in there and cut it off and took off with it. I mean, it's just, I mean, there is signage there saying there's no authorized car at this point, and, you know, but it's
a no-win
spot. What's that?
It's a no-win down there. Like, I feel like we've tried everything.
I mean, the only other option that we have is, I mean, one of the reasons we moved the dumpster in there is because people were pulling into the parking lot and dumping their trash. Maybe that's something that we live with. We put that there, and we put the porta potties outside the gate, and then the only company that needs to get in there is propane. And I mean, that's a fairly regular delivery. It's not something that's being done every week or every other week, and it's not all year long. So that would minimize the amount of vehicles that need to get in there. So we can, you know, get that code, give it to that one company. And I know softball, they want to have it for the concession stand. I would just say, you know, get a tractor or get something that they can load up in a wagon and bring it over there.
Andy, from a dumpster standpoint, at Corning, we actually padlock the dumpster. And it's the same code as the shed. So if somebody in baseball wants to empty the trash in the barrels, they can just undo the code, they throw it in, put it down, they relock it.
Yeah.
We had too many people coming and dumping trash in there.
So, I mean, that would do something. And I mean, I just don't like the car. And I think we need to get the speed bumps out of there, because I think it is sending the bad message. I think the speed bump there is people like, well, if there's no cars allowed, why are we having speed bumps out here?
I've been down there a couple times, and it seems like as soon as I close the gate, it's open back up. Some of the excuses I heard is, I've always done this. The police has never told me I can't. There's no signs. One lady with her children said it's too much for a mother to walk down there. Another guy was like, well, my boat's too heavy to carry down there. And it's like, well, do we now just guardrail it off? Or and then we have to deal with the trash, and we have to deal with people driving around Barra. And right now, it's to the point, the other day, there was a kid stuck down at the pond in his car. And it's just, there's no limit. If we do decide to go back to locking the gate, I think we should move the pole that is already there over and lock it up tight, and then also reduce the number of people that have the combination, because it seems like everybody knows the combination. If you're going to play basketball, walk in with your basketball. If you're going to have a gym set up on the basketball court, then just walk it in. If you're going to fish, then you have to walk it in.
It is crazy that I changed that code last summer and that many people ended up knowing it by this summer. So it tells you that it just gets spread around.
Yeah.
One person or two people end up knowing it for whatever, and then all of a sudden everyone seems to know it. So
Except for the guy that cut it off and took it with him.
oh yeah. Well, he cut off the other chains too, because there were separate locks on that chain. It was pieces of the chain, with different locks on it, and they're all gone. So
yeah, I spoke with Kevin Brown briefly, and he said he can't put a lock back on there until we get another lock from the fire department as well.
Right. I mean, we should definitely. I mean, if people want to complain that there's no signage on there, then we should be putting up no parking signs. No parking beyond this point.
Well, I think long term, what do you guys think? I mean, I think the easiest solution, if we don't bring everything out, is guardrail off the playground, guardrail off. We've already guardrailed off the other side, but strictly just say there's no parking. Or maybe put. I think it would be good to put 3 or 4 handicap spots down there, or mothers with infant spots, so that there's a couple parking spots right there for the playground, maybe a couple parking spots. Well, there's nothing really close to Talent for pickleball, but a couple handicap spots, a couple of mothers with infants or expectant mothers spots, and then
Boat drop off spot.
Yeah, but I mean the boat should be dropped off and then parked in the parking lot.
I'm good with that idea, because I did see some mothers down there that had 2 young children, and it's quite a walk, especially going back when the kids don't want to leave. So I kind of see their point. Healthy teenagers parking next to the basketball court to play basketball, well, they could probably walk in just as easy.
Oh yeah. Now, Steve, what would we need to do with the police department as far as ticketing? If we were to say, make that a no parking area, we'd need to have some type of enforcement, or else people are just going to flip the bird at us and just say, forget it.
I can get with Chief Sergeant and ask him, but I think it's going to be some type of ordinance that's going to have to come out for the within the rec. But I'm not sure. I'll ask him.
Okay.
What needs to be done.
Andy, this might be, maybe this is a change. You mean a change in who's running it now, whatever. The years we used to have problems with parking at Brickyard, on Brickyard Drive, we beg. I as the soccer president, when I was the soccer president, begged for them to ticket people who parked illegally, and they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it. They were like, well, then we get complaints from the residents, and the residents, like, I don't care. Like, it's our parents doing it. It's even worse, because usually it's our parents doing it. Usually it's not people coming in from other towns doing it. Ticket them. I don't care how many complaints you get. Ticket them and tell them to read the sign. And it's just frustrating. And it's taken years to beat it into people, really, about how they should be parking on Brickyard Drive. But I'm more than convinced that it would have been easier if they just went down and started ticketing people. Because once people realize you're going to get ticketed for parking there wrong, it's going to get around, and then people won't do it. But they'd end up, honestly, they'd usually park at the end. The policeman will walk all the way down, come in and start telling people, tell these people to move their cars because they don't want to give a ticket. Just give the ticket. I know
When
it's
we
not
established
popular, but just give the ticket.
My bigger concern is when they park on both sides of the road and you can't get fire apparatus through.
Oh, yeah.
We ran into that issue up at Jeff Lane to the point that, the deputy fire chief called me and said, hey, you can't have people on both sides, so we can't get apparatus down.
Yeah, because there's too much of a drop off the road. You used to be able to park, so you're only a foot or two on Jeff Lane before. Yeah,
Now you can't.
right.
When we put the river access in, and the gentleman slid by the gate and managed to get all the way down by the river, we were talking to the officer at the scene, and he pretty much told me that there is nothing he could do because we do not have an RSA instructing him what to do. So all he could do is tell the man to move his car, get something to move the car, but he could not ticket him or do any enforcement. So if we were to do something, we'd have to have an RSA established saying that unauthorized vehicles beyond this point are subject to ticketing or towing.
Yeah.
I think if we have some signs, we'll be better off because I mentioned it to a couple people, and a lot of them, the answer was, there's no sign telling me I can't.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right, so we can maybe look into that and just, I think short term, again, we can't really get a change until we get a fire lock for that gate.
Do you support the idea of Andy of going long term with putting up guardrails, restricting access down to the pond, more guardrails so people can't drive next to the basketball court, and only allowing handicapped pregnant mothers and drop off of boats, kayaks, etc.?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I think we've got to sort of explore all the avenues because I know that there's extensive parking down there for large softball tournaments. So we need to write it. We need to do it so that there can be exceptions for specific circumstances. And that circumstance isn't just because I've always done it this way. If they don't allow the umpires and the coaches to park down by the basketball courts, they just run out of parking. They simply do, and obviously it's nice to have the umpires away from everybody else. So I think, yeah, if you could talk to Chief Sergeant and just see what we would need to do on our end, and maybe we can come up with some ideas on how to write it up and which signs to get, where to place them, to make sure that they make sense, they get the point across, and they're enforceable.
Okay, I'll call the chief tomorrow.
Okay.
I think I have one last one, and that's basically a good one. So I have possession of the 2 granite benches, and now I'm just trying to seek input from the committee on where we should place them. They're basic tabletop style, 2x4 in size. I think it's polished granite at the top. I know there was a tree planted at the JB River access, and I was thinking about putting one right there. It's right as you enter into the parking lot area. There's a small, I guess it would be a shade tree. Eventually put one there, but I'm not sure about where to put the other. Now, a resident in town has recently built 2 benches out of 4x8 or 2x4s or pressure treated wood and Trex decking and sunk them into the ground down by the river's edge. So there's no need to put granite benches down there. So we really have another granite bench of where should we place it, or where should we place both of them? Should we put one up by the tree, and then where should we put the other one, or should we just move them both someplace else?
Is the tree near the monument there?
The tree would be on the other side of the parking lot. So as you come down the access road, right before the parking lot opens up for parking, the tree is sitting to the right. And then John's monument would be on the far side of the parking lot.
All right. I would consider put the other bench down by the monument. I think that would be a nice spot.
One at the monument? Okay.
I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
I trust your judgment.
Sounds good.
Don't leave it on me. All right, I'll put him there.
Okay.
I'll wait till you put it in to complain about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Make me move
Next
it.
item is maintenance list.
All right. So I think we should establish a to-do list, maybe put it on the website or some place where we could have access to it and write to it. Some of the things that came to mind is when I was at Talent Hall the other day, like general cleaning of the kitchen. I know we talked about removing the stove. Maybe at the pavilion down there, can we put a carry in, carry out sign and get rid of the trash can? I know there's an electrical box that's become dislodged on the concession stand. There's an old gas grill behind the concession stand that probably can go to the dump. And also, I would like to see if we can install a hose bib someplace close to the concession stand so that we can, in the future, wash the playground, wash the picnic tables off, do a little something for maintenance and for water. And that's the small list I can think of. I know we probably have 10,000 other things that could be added.
Well, and I think that some of that will go in hand in hand with the liaison position. It's like the snack shack over there. That's really something softball should be maintaining. It's something that they use. That's their grill, their equipment. It really needs to be. The whole idea is we don't charge any fees for the use of the town fields, and the organizations get to use it. They need to maintain it, and it can't become a junkyard for it. But yeah, I think maybe a custodial to-do list wouldn't be a bad thing. Anybody else?
While I'm thinking of it, who has that extra wood? Remember the wood that was at?
I do.
It was.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be me.
I will coordinate. I'll email you offline and figure out when to come get it, because there are some boards at Sawmill that need to be replaced, and that's what we said we were going to use that wood for. So.
Actually, I was going to make a motion with the price of pressure treated out there now. I was thinking that we could actually have a nice fundraiser and sell all that stuff. We could probably pay for the heat for talent for the winter. And actually,
it's sitting on the side of my garage. So whenever you want, Mike, we'll work it out.
Okay.
Talking about the water spigots, I was kind of taken aback, and I don't know if anybody else here was aware that they took out the mop sinks that were in Talent Hall. There was a mop sink in the kitchen, and there was a mop sink next to the hot water heater. I don't know why there was a mop sink up there, but they've both been disconnected, and the one in the kitchen has been removed and brought upstairs. I don't remember it being discussed. I don't know who would do it, but were any of you guys aware that that was being done?
No idea.
Okay.
All I can think of is maybe something froze in a wintertime or something. They had to disconnect it or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I never heard it.
I felt bad because Steve was texting me back and forth trying to find a water spigot. I'm like, Steve, it's the mop sink. It's right underneath the sink in the kitchen. Because there's no mop. Like, Steve, come on. And no, it's not there anymore.
Nope.
All right. And then minutes. So we do need to get caught up on the minutes.
Yeah, so what to offer, I've been tapping away for me tonight. I'm happy to take minutes going forward until next year when hopefully we have Matthew on board formally. But I can help us limp through. I don't think I'll be doing as good a quality as he did for sure, but I'll give it my best shot. And we just ask folks to take an extra look at that and make sure I capture all the key points. So I will be happy to do that for the duration of the calendar year. But we'll tag people as I need to if I'm not going to be at.
And I mean, the big thing with minutes, Peter, is what we need to legally cover are any official business that we conduct. If there are discussions, there really doesn't have to be a lot of detail on it. I know he had done a lot of great stuff with that. That's not legally required, and just bullet points, short bullet points is good, especially since all this stuff is going to be on video if people are really interested. But it's really just motions that are made, who made the motion, what the discussion is on the motion, and what the vote is on the motion is really all we need to have on the minutes.
All right, so I wrote down that we're picking up breathing on the audio. That wasn't a necessary
Yes.
detail. Okay, I'll take it out.
I've tried to hold my breath for the last hour and a half. All right. Any old business? All right, hearing none. Any other business?
I have one thing I want to say. Yeah, me again. I want the community to understand that we really rely heavily on volunteers to get things done around town. You know, we're a volunteer commission as well. So with that said, I want to give a huge kudos out to Kate Stevens and her family. They volunteered to clean the playground equipment down at Darrett Memorial Park. They spent 6+ hours over 2 days cleaning and sanitizing it. And as Andy said, the closest water connection was on the backside of Talent Hall. So we stretched probably 300 to 400 feet of garden hose across to get it done. So I really appreciate her efforts. It was awesome of her to do that. We also have to remind everybody in the community that the equipment has been cleaned once, but there is not an ongoing maintenance cycle. So they should all practice proper safety protocols by washing their hands and sanitizing after use. But it has been washed thoroughly and sanitized with bleach at least once at the beginning of the season this year.
Steve, is there signage out there now?
The signs are
There is
being,
no sign.
no signs yet. The signs are being made
Got it.
for that. And also, just so everyone knows about the porta potties, the company that is supplying them, they're going to clean them twice a week. But the highway department has opted to go out and sanitize, spray them every day. So they have a chemical spray. They're going to go in, just spray the whole thing down inside first thing in the morning. So we figured at least that will cover it. And I guess moving forward, what we'll try to do is ask whatever organization is using it, maybe to clean it before and after games.
And I think that we'll probably need to also start thinking opening Talent Hall, how we're going to handle that. Because, I mean, having one, right now we just have somebody in there once a week cleaning. There's going to have to be, if we're going to, before we open it, we need to have some protocols in place, I would assume.
Yeah, we'll have to see what the CDC guidelines are, because that's what the porta potty company is using right now by going in twice a week.
Okay. All right. Any other business? All right. Hearing none, I'll hear a motion to. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. So we have a motion by Mike Bosky and a second by Andrew Ruggles. All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Abstain or oppose? Abstain. Motion carries 6-0. All right.
That's the longest meeting we've had in 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
All right.
apologize.
So our next meeting will be August. What is that day?
10th? Oh, 11th?
11th. August 11th will be our next meeting, and our primary focus there will be the budget, to get that initial budget to the Board of Selectmen. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Be well.
Thank you.
Thanks, you too.
Have a good night, everybody.
Take care, folks.